morning. Welcome to Struggles of the Spirit. I'm your host, Reverend Leland Udell, and we're talking these days, last 2 months, about what is it in your own spiritual life that warms your heart. In other words, what personally in your own spiritual life is important to you? What is it that makes you feel good? What is it that gives meaning to your life, value to your own person? What would that be? And I've poised the question in a wide definition here, so that it gives you, the viewer, and also our guests, a chance to respond according to their own lights, their own personality, their own tradition, their own religious perspective. And so that varies from everyone. Our guest today is going to pursue that subject from his point of view, but we would like you to think about it from your point of view. And the last 15 minutes of the program, from 12:15 until 12:30, is open to your input as a viewer, to call us and speak with us and make your comments and maybe your questions, whatever you would like to do to join us. And we really would like that to happen, and we ask you to phone in and to be a part of the program. This is an audience participation program, and that last 15 minutes. And the name of the studio's, its phone number will be displayed on the screen at that time. And so then just take it down and phone. Our guest is Mohammed Shaikh. He's a devout Muslim and Sunni, as I remember, right?
There's only one Muslim, all of them.
Okay. I'm always learning from this man, and he's a delight to have here. And he's going to talk about it, the subject, from his perspective. And we're glad that he's agreed to do that and to be with us. So welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you.
Glad to have you back again. Yeah. So there are many areas where you could start answering that question for yourself. Maybe we could do it chronologically a little bit, if you wish. You know, where in your religious life did you find your heart warmed in the beginning, when you began to practice Islam? What was it that appealed to you at first, that warmed your heart, made you feel good, made you feel whole?
Yeah, listen, before we started, you just mentioned a good point about the Sunni. The Islam is just the only one belief, there's one God, and He sent the book and prophets to guide the people. And Sunni, Shia, and all those segregation within the Muslim was developed later on.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like nothing to do with Islam, but it's the people who separated themselves in different segments and subsection based on their own
later developments.
Right, based on their own particular belief, right? And they claim that this is right Islam. Each section obviously thinks that this is the right Islam. But there's only one, as a Muslim, there's only one Islam.
Okay. From the Christian point of view, you would say that Jesus was not a Roman Catholic, nor was he a Baptist or an Episcopalian or anything else.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's right.
Thank you.
So, but the following, right, the practices I personally do is more related towards the section of the people who believes in the Sunni part of the religion. There are certain part each section believes it's not right to do and prefer to do, and those kind of issues, like any other religion. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that. So, if you wish,
No.
for you, what was it that warmed your heart about Islam when you were a younger person?
Mm-hmm. Now, the reason I am Muslim is, to put it straightforward, because I was born in a Muslim family. Mm-hmm. And I was born in Pakistan, and majority of the people, right, they were Muslim. I believe it's like 98%, 97% of the people. Mm-hmm. So the only thing we learned over there, right, was Islam, what is Islam, and all the knowledge I gained during my childhood was based on what I learned from other people, not doing my own research. There's a big difference when I moved to United States, and obviously I was grown up and a lot more mature than compared to when I was back home, right? I used a little bit different approach. I started looking into the literature, in Islamic mm-hmm. literature, and mm-hmm. start to gain the first-hand knowledge about Islam rather than what somebody else told me.
But, okay, but I guess but still I want to go back when you were a young person. At least in the Christian context, there are some who, what warms their heart is the communion service. For others, what warms their heart is the music. For others, what warms their heart it's the stained glass windows. From others, it's the chance to be with children their own age outside of the school context. There are different things like that. Mm-hmm. So I assume that would be true and for Islam as well. That at the mosque there'd be certain things that you would like particularly, and other things would be, well, you know, you can live them with them or without them, but you really like having your own prayer rug, mm-hmm. you know, that you would use. Right, or like if I were a good Jew, I think if I were a child, I would like having a prayer shawl, my own prayer shawl. That would make me feel good. It would warm my heart.
Right, yeah. Unfortunately, in Islam, right, we don't have the music or anything, dancing or music or social activities in mosque. Mosques are places where strictly there for the prayer mm-hmm. to God. And in the olden days, right, they used the mosque as a central place where they would get together and make the decision, which used to impact the community and the world. So it's not like place to entertain yourself or
community meeting hall.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm. To make the decision about the community things which would impact the community. But later on, nowadays, most of the things in the mosque, right, people would go for the prayer. And most of the time, there are attached building to the mosque, or the separate section in the mosque where they will hold called the madrasa, similar thing like the educating the people mm-hmm. and the religious affairs.
Educational wing of the building.
Of the building, right, where they would educate the kids and even older people to go, or adults, mm-hmm. to go and learn about Islam or about mm-hmm. their mm-hmm. knowledge. So, unfortunately, there's not much entertainment aspect in in going to the mosque. But there's a social aspect where you go over there, visit your other people, your friends, and things like that, pray together. Then you come out and you can go out and enjoy with them. Right? It's a social thing.
The cry to come to worship, the public announcement, is that universal?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Like church bells sometimes for Christians, calling people to come to worship. Is that anything important for you? Is it to hear the cry to say come to worship?
It is not really is the message is most like in olden days, right? There was no loudspeaker, and the people were spread out, right? So it's like using that thing as a loudspeaker, person standing on the highest point.
Right, right.
And in the olden days, they used to have a highest platform, or the minaret, person would go on top of it and then...
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
And say or transmit the message in a loud wording that this is basically what it is a prayer time, and come on down and let us do the prayer, pray for the God. And this, what it is.
Well, tell me about the more recent then. Nothing really spoke to you, especially as a child, but all right, as an adult.
Now, as an adult, right, that's what turns me on is doing the right thing. Now, the right thing is different for different people, and everybody has their own perspective, what is right and what is wrong. When I look at the right thing, it's from religious perspective, from Islam, right? And the thing, if you take out the religious concept, what is wrong and what is right, just go by your own thinking and adopt something right, that can turn out to be wrong a month later, and you will find out, and that happens. We make some decision, and later on in life, we find that no, that was a wrong decision, or some like alcohol, drinking, gambling, and there's a lot of things in life. And what happens if you follow the religious guideline, that thing is based on thousands and thousands of years of research. Like if, in case of Quran, right, that was 1400 years old in the Bible, and those things like 2000 years old, and again, right, it is proven that those things stands the test of time. So personally, I like to follow those things to make the determination what is right and what is wrong. And doing the right thing, really, that just makes me feel a lot better.
There's a sense within yourself of being in union with Islam and with its teaching, and a sense of pleasure and that solidarity.
Right. Now, Islam, this like we just talked about before the starting of this meeting or starting this broadcast about is an ummah, means all the Muslims, they fall under the one umbrella, and that's Islam, and they're not supposed to be divided by different boundaries or different nations. And everybody falls into, once they are Muslim, then they are the Muslim brotherhood. Every Muslim is their brother, doesn't matter where they live or what part of the world.
And that's still true to some degree.
Verbally, it is true, but when you ask for the help, right, then it is not true. People don't rush to help other Muslims. It is a very unfortunate part. Like when things were going on in Bosnia, I don't think there's many Muslim countries that stood up. It's not to blame the people, really. I think it's the leadership. That's what it is. If you look at the Muslim thing, it has to be very much democratic society where leaders should be responsible for the well-being of their people. Right? Unfortunately, in the Muslim countries, you don't see that. Leaders are filthy rich, and people are very, very poor.
So they're that's happened in Christian countries too. We know what the leaders want, the leaders get. Irrespective of the religion of the people. I think that's not unique for Islam. But you said you feel good doing what the Quran teaches. A sense of as the Christian would say, I'm asking, I guess, whether the same would be true for a Muslim. Would say that that we're made we're created to work best when we follow some of these moral standards and ways of behavior, and we're more in harmony within ourselves, and therefore we feel better. That, I guess you would agree.
Right. Yes. Absolutely. That's right.
How about some other things?
Like, there is a purpose of life, right? God created us, right, for some purpose. It's not like just you come over here and just pray for the rest of your life and die. And I mean, and according to the Islamic thing, you have to have a balance in your life. You do the prayer. Also, you have other obligation towards your family, obligation towards your fellow man. So you have to properly balance your life in every aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So, like raising a family, right? You doing the right thing, this is what you're being told to do, in Quran and from the religious point of view. And it goes both ways, right? I mean, you have to raise the family, and also you have to take care of your parents. So when you become parent, or your children becomes parent, just keeps on, the circle keeps on going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking about Muslim life, and since I'm not a Muslim, I can't speak firsthand, but from what I've heard before and what you have shared with me, I would think that perhaps your 5 times a day in prayer would warm the heart of most Muslims.
Absolutely.
You want to tell our viewers a little bit about that? You have spoken before, but about daily prayer that way, but it's less secret for a Muslim, the daily prayer, than it would be for a Christian or a Jew. Whereas I can just sit here and pray, but you might think I fell asleep, but I'd really be praying. But from what I understand, for a Muslim, there are certain physical things that you do in your prayer that
Right, yes.
that are more obvious than what I would do, and that might warm one's heart. Participating in these time-honored traditions. You want to tell our viewers about that?
Yes. There are some conditions to meet to do those 5 prayers or the daily prayer in Islam, right? And first of all, is cleanliness is the key thing. Before you go to the prayer, right, you have to be clean, and that means like when you take the shower, or you cannot go to prayer like doing after the sex. You do the sex and go to prayer. You are not allowed to do that. If you are dirty, you're going to the washroom or bathroom and go after to the prayer. You're not allowed to do that. If you are in the bad company or like talking filthy or those things, you're not allowed to do that. So what it does is puts a lot of constraint on you, right, to behave. Mm-hmm. And when you have to do 5 times a day, right, that means you don't want to take the showers 5 times a day each time you go to the prayer. It means that it puts a constraint on yourself not to behave morally, not to use the filthy language, also do the right things, not to take like the bribe or hurting other people, or all those things goes along with those things. The other aspect, right, that's beside the cleanliness. When you go for the prayer 5 times, right, when the Muslim prayer is like there are physical movement. That's the one thing. The second thing is kind of meditation. Like you separate yourself from all the worldly affair, and you're connecting yourself directly to the God. And just you're reciting the Quran, and you're in your heart, and you're thinking and everything as God. So what happens in the daily life, even you're like too much stressed out, and you have to break from that stress, go over there, and suddenly you have to stop thinking whatever you were doing, right, and just concentrate. So it just relaxes you a lot. It's like giving you the meditation. It's physical movement, going up and down, and all those things. And the cleanliness before you, even you are physically clean, right? Still, you have to do we call it wudu. You have to wash your hand and face and feet before you start your prayer.
Your feet too.
Yes.
That's hard if you're in the office or in the factory. It's easier if you're at home.
Right. If you in mosque, right? If you go in the mosque, most of the big mosques, they're designed in such a way that at the entrance, right, you have to take off your shoes. In all the mosques, you're not allowed to wear the shoes anyhow.
Now that's because it's holy ground?
Yes, because of the cleanliness. You want to keep it clean, and the way Muslims pray, right, they bow down and they touch the floor. So if people walking with their shoes, right, you don't want to touch the same floor, right, with your face. So that's probably one of the reasons, right, that you want to keep this whole place clean.
Well, just remembering from the Hebrew Scriptures, where with Moses, I think he took his sandals off because he was in the presence of God and holy ground. And so I was thinking the mosque would be thought of as a holy place where people meet God, and so the same way you might take your shoes off. Besides cleanliness,
in Islam, right, the God is everywhere, and you can pray anywhere you want to. You can pray over here too. And in U.S. you don't see that much, but if you go to the Muslim countries or Asian countries, and nowadays in European countries too, you'll find a lot of people praying at the airports or the bus terminals. But when the time for the prayer, there are 5 times every day people has to pray, right? And it doesn't matter where they are, right? They have to find a quiet place and go and do their prayer. And nowadays, right, in JFK, like, where you have a lot of people moving around, and you will see people praying when the prayer time comes.
So that would happen right in the airport.
Yes, oh yeah, you will see this. And nowadays you would see in all the big airports in U.S. People praying.
They're not special areas for that. It's just that they find an area where no plane is coming or going, and so it's kind of quiet.
Right, in most of the airport that is true, but there are certain flights like which are bound to the Muslim countries, and there are a lot of passengers. Majority of the passengers they're Muslim. In those cases, the airline company, they made their own arrangement.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a dedicated area for the people as customers. They are their customer in this.
Now, do you have your own rug that you use?
No.
So
a lot of people carry their own rug, but you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Some people will just put the newspaper and do that, just to make sure that's like touching the ground, right? So you want to make sure it is clean.
So the rug would be used for cleanliness
right.
purposes.
Exactly.
And does this warm your heart to worship 5 times a day like that?
Yes, and like I said, the reason, right, it breaks you away from all the trouble or the hectic things happening in your life, right? And suddenly you're in the meditation. And a lot of people, they do the meditation, they spend the money, and you're getting it free over here.
Yes.
And you're supposed to closer to God. Yes. So it does help.
I would think so.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Also, I mean, even medically, it helps to lower blood pressure. You know.
Right. It calms you down.
Yeah.
And like in the hard times, you would see a lot of Muslim and probably Christian too. They go more towards the religion when they go and get stuff. That's
There is no article of clothing you would put on when you pray. Not like a prayer shawl or or a certain hat, or
Again, that goes by custom. The requirement is that you have to dress a respectable dress, cover your body, not show off your body parts, and that's about it. But then a lot of people, depending on the culture where they're from, they put the hat on. Like people from India, Pakistan, they would put they call it cap on their head before they pray. Some people are probably from Middle Eastern country, they have something on the head too. But a lot of people, if you go in the mosque, you will see all kind of dresses, and some people praying with a cap, some people without caps.
so it varies greatly.
Right, from where you are from, this thing.
Back in 1950s and 60s, I remember many women, when they go to a Christian church, they would have a veil on their head, or a mantilla, a very beautiful kind of veil, or a hat. But now they don't do that anymore.
Right, for the woman, they're supposed to cover their head.
They are.
Yes.
Okay.
Not only during the prayer, in regular life, they should cover their head.
And is that done very much in
Muslim countries?
Muslim country?
Not very much, no, except like country like Saudi Arabia probably. But it is kind of voluntary thing. It's not like you're not forced to do it. I think in Saudi Arabia you're forced to do it. You're supposed to do it if you are a woman. But not in Pakistan. I can speak about Pakistan. Probably in India, no. People do voluntarily, and some people do, some people don't. Now again, like this, there's again. Some people think that the covering the head is good enough, and that's my understanding, reading personally, that's the covering just the head is good enough for the woman. Head or the chest part of the thing with the, we call it chadar, or the sheet, just the, and some people you would have seen the covering everything like the face and.
You mean like a sari, like an Indian sari?
No, not Indian sari is a completely different thing, because they expose the body over there, this part of the body, which is not the very much Islamic there.
Okay.
The shawl is the sheet, right? That would be in addition to their own clothing. They would have the normal shirt and the trouser, and then on top of that they would have the shawl, which would cover the face and chest.
So what other kind of things for you as a practicing Muslim would warm your heart?
As a Muslim, right, there are a lot of things we're supposed to do, like raising family. And it puts total responsibility on you, right, to providing them materially and emotionally, and also spiritually. So when they grow up, they should be a good Muslim. And environment like over here, right, or nowadays, practically everywhere, anywhere you go in the world, right, is becoming more and more difficult to do that, because children, they hear too many different things. They turn on the TV, they hear one thing, they go to the school, they hear second thing. When you talk to them, they hear the third thing. So it's kind of very, very hard to manage the whole thing.
That's true from my experience. Yeah, that's for sure.
But we try to do our best. And the way to do it right is to become an example, not to tell them what is right or what is wrong, right? Just become an example. Like, for example, drinking the alcohol and telling the kids that the alcohol is not good for the kids. Right? Probably they will ask a question, and why it is good for you and not good for me.
Yes. Kids are very honest and very outspoken. Yeah.
Right. So you have to be careful when you how to handle the kid, right? Become an example.
Are there certain festivals during the year when Muslim festivals that, like right now, the Jewish people have a lot of very sacred festivals and times of the year Is that true for a Muslim too?
Yes. Basically, there are 3 festivals. You can call it festival, or actually one. You can. I don't know which category you would put it, but I can tell you what are those. One is called Eid al-Fitr, which is end of Ramadan. Probably you must have heard about the Ramadan, when Muslims fast for 29 or 30 days, and at the end, right, they celebrate. And the celebration is basically they met their obligation. They are supposed to fast, and whatever they were supposed to do, they did it, and now it's time to eat and get together with the family and enjoy meal. The other one is like celebrating we call it Eid al-Adha. That's the Prophet Ibrahim's sacrifice of his son, sacrificing his son. And the third one is the life of Prophet Muhammad.
And here in Vermont, do you want to tell our viewers a little bit about that? That there are other Muslims like yourself who get together at a mosque or a place that functions as a mosque. I think a lot of Vermonters don't imagine there would be people here who would be Muslim, but I understand. I think it's the fastest growing religious group in this country.
Right. Yes, that's true. And most of the growth is in the big cities like New York or Los Angeles and Texas and Houston, or those in the big cities. And even in Vermont, right? When I came to Vermont, I came in 1980. There were not many Muslims. You can count some families on your fingers. That's that many. But now, probably like you're talking about like 300 families or
300?
maybe more. Yes, or maybe
In Vermont.
In Vermont, right? Yep. So there's a lot of because of the immigration, because of the growth, children and people getting married and convert. In Vermont, is not that much conversion, but if you go into the big cities like Los Angeles or New York City, there's a lot of people converting to Islam.
There are a lot of blacks who convert to.
Right, especially in the black, right, that's true. Black and Hispanic community, that's right.
So I'm still asking you more about what warms your heart. You have some other thoughts about what?
Yeah, like doing the right thing, and the right thing, like again I said, what are the right thing? Raising the family, playing with the kids, spending your time with the kids, and doing the things for them, right? Those are the right thing, and this makes you feel good. And working with your community.
And you can see how the children respond. It makes you can. It's easy to tell that they enjoy being with their father or their mother. It's important to them.
Right.
There are a lot of people who don't spend much time with their children for various reasons. But
yeah, nowadays we are more in the material life, and this is very easy to just tangle into the material things, and lost the perspective of the spiritual part of the life.
yeah, I think all in this country anyway, all religious groups have some problems with that. Religious groups often become humanistic, but not very spiritual. It's interesting that it's a problem for Islam as well as Christians and Jews.
And all the time, prosperity brings other problem, different kind of problems.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So,
Now, back in Pakistan, is it very different than what the Muslim life is like in Pakistan?
actually, everywhere is changing. People are becoming more materialistic. They always would compare this what the other person has, right? They don't compare the spiritual aspect of other people. They compare the material things, what the other person has and what they have to have in order to go.
So it's the competitiveness.
In the material life.
Yeah.
So we are progressing. That makes us progress in the material life. So there's a good growth in that part of the human life. But
are there for a Muslim? You have retreats? You have quiet days? Do you have retreat centers where you go off to be still and worship God, or maybe to have talks on prayer or the spiritual life? You do that?
basically, like again, you can do that any place. It's not the specific place you have to be.
I mean,
And people do that. They do in their home.
I mean, what I mean is there's a mosque sponsor, or a group of mosques sponsor conferences on spiritual life. Do they?
Yes, they do.
They,
Right. Yep. And as a matter of fact, they have this. They have this group that's called Tablighi Jamaat, and the whole purpose in their life is to go out and talk about Islam to all over the world. And they get together everywhere in the world, and they spread. People volunteer for 6 months, 1 year of their time and all their money to go and talk to people. And generally, what they do, right? They approach more Muslims and try to bring them more closer to the religious teaching, right? Than approaching the non-Muslim. And the non-Muslim, they learn more about hearing the things in the media and those things. So kind of like a retention thing, like whoever the Muslim is, make them a better Muslim.
I think one reason why I came up with this subject about what is it in your spiritual life that warms your heart is because some people are into religious life for, it seems, for non-personal reasons. In other words, they're doing what they think is right, what they should do, but they don't find much benefit for themselves in what they're doing. It doesn't affect them personally very much. They're going through the motions, you might say, but they're not finding a deep personal meaning in their practice of their religion. And so that's one of the questions I was wondering how that would be for a Muslim. But
I was born as a Muslim, and later on, right, I went out and did my own research and looking at the Muslim teaching by reading the books and other Islamic literature, right? And it turned out to be that it was the right thing to do for me, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still a believer of religion because of what the teachings are, right? Now, those teachings are not necessarily what you hear on the TV and what the people in the Western world say, right? They are a lot different than what the perception of the Western world of Islam is. And to be honest, there's a lot of people, right, even in the Muslim country, they don't do the things right. And that's how the Islam is getting the bad name.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to do with Islam, those practices.
Like Christians.
But at least, right, when somebody does something wrong, right, people don't associate that thing with the religion, Christianity. And unfortunately, when the media talks about some section of the world or some part of the world, right, they are very quick to associate those parts with the religion, Islam, and that's how when people think about the violence and all those things, right, they talk about has to do with Islam, but that's two separate things. There's a culture in Islam, and people all over the world, right, they fight for different reasons, for freedom or for many other causes.
I guess it's about time for us to open the program to our viewers, to ask them to call. So please, I'm speaking to you now, those of you who are watching, to call, and this is a good opportunity for you to talk with Mohammed about what it means to be a Muslim, what it is that might warm his heart, what your knowledge of the Muslim world is, and to learn about it from someone who has a lot of knowledge and experience. It's not every day you have that opportunity. So please call us right now. Our phone number is on the screen, and we would be delighted to hear from you. We'd like to hear also what warms your heart in your own religious life, in your own spiritual life. What is it that makes you feel good, that makes you feel whole, that makes you feel one with the universe? Call us and tell us. We would like to hear it. So we await your call for the next 15 minutes. The time is set aside for you. We will continue to talk amongst ourselves, but we will immediately stop as soon as we know that you're on the line. So give us a ring, and we'll hear your voice on our loudspeakers, and we'll respond to it with our microphones. So please come and be with us. I've told you how I've enjoyed reading this book of Ibn Battuta. This was our viewers probably don't know that this was a man who was a Muslim from North Africa who traveled widely from around the year 1325, and he went all the way to China and back. And unlike Marco Polo, who did travel roughly at the same time, he stayed for months and years in different countries on his travels. He didn't just make the trip and return. He sort of he was even hired, you might say, to work in India. He was a very highly educated Muslim, and he was given work to do because of his specialties in India and in other places. What fascinated me was how extensive the Muslim world was at that time, and that it in some ways was more extensive than the Christian world, and how there were communities, religious communities all along, all the way to China, where a devout Muslim could find fellowship, support, fellow worshippers, as a Westerner, I had no idea that that was going on, and that there were universities and colleges that were in here in 1300s that were operating, and where learning was proceeding, and scholarship was important. I had always gotten the impression that from the my reading at the universities that the only real culture out there was what was in the West, and that was rather small at that time in history. But here we had a whole flourishing world that I had not known about, and so it was quite interesting. Ibn Battuta, most people don't seem to know about him.
Yeah, he was a traveler.
Yes.
Not only in this traveling aspect, if you look at the architect, Muslim architect, even 1,000 years ago or 1,500 years ago, they are big in architect, they were big in stories or the cultural thing. Like if you look at the Disney movies, it's like Aladdin and the Arabian Nights and all those things. They are very old stories.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned about the colleges, they used to have the colleges in Baghdad. Baghdad is one of the education center.
Mm-hmm.
And probably maybe in 900, yes, probably, I don't remember the exact timing, but so the Islamic culture was there, but somehow it's not that much publicized thing. In medical thing, that's like they had the Ibn Sina was he was the author of one of the medical book which was used for hundreds of years in even the colleges in Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, it just shows me how very ignorant we are of other peoples, other religions. We are only barely familiar with our own, and and not familiar much with others, and we think we are, but we're not really at all, and it's startling to find these things out. There was also extensive trade up and down the Indian Ocean and down the coast, the east coast of Africa, by Muslim merchants down to past Madagascar and Kenya. I mean, they had outposts up and down the whole African coast, and I just had no idea that anything like that was going on, because no one ever taught that to me in school. And so I want to encourage our viewers to look into Ibn Battuta and other people from those years, that you might get your perspectives changed about culture and civilization and education.
Yeah, like there's always rise and fall. So nations, right, they rise and then fall. So at one time, that part of the world was at their peak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now we are at our peak.
Yes.
Peak or getting to the peak, or.
Well, England is no longer at its peak anymore.
Right. Yes.
You know the saying, the sun never sets on the British Empire.
Like about 2 years ago, we went to Pakistan, and I took my kids to old cities in Pakistan. We have the ruins of the city, like one of the city which was built 2,500 years ago.
Mm.
And it's amazing how much people knew at that time. There was the temples over there and houses, 2-story houses, and built rugged houses. In the temple, they were still intact. So,
over 2,000 years old?
2,500 years old.
Amazing.
We saw some jewelry. It's like today's jewelry. Very fine jewelry, excellent, made out of gold. pots and pans and all those things. It was amazing, this even 2,500 years ago, how much people knew.
They weren't as ignorant as we think they were.
Yeah, and the only difference is that right now probably we are more organized and we have more record keeping. So once somebody develops something, it just very quickly spreads and people start building.
Communication is much faster.
Right.
Yeah, that's a fact. But
and a lot more people. That's 2,500 years ago. Not that many people now. I don't know. I was looking at actually it is in today's paper that we're going to be 6 billion next month. Total population of the world will be 6 billion.
6 billion.
And within this century, it increased fourfold. So that means at the start of the century, we were only 1.5 billion. Now we are 6 billion. So considering the rate of growth, right, maybe 2,500 years ago, it was not that many people.
Right, yeah. Someone said to me that there are more people living on the face of the earth right now than all the people who ever lived on this earth. That we've grown so. It seems hard to believe that.
No, probably that's a true statement. If you look at the growth rate, right? In today's paper, they talk about the thing that the beginning of the century there were only 1.5 billion people. Today is 6 billion. I mean, in October next month it will be 6 billion.
Wow.
So in 100 years, if there's a fourfold increase, right? If you keep on going back, right?
Yeah. I hear you. Well, we still are waiting for our viewers to phone. Please call. We're talking here with Mohammed Shaikh about Islam and about what it is and his religious faith that warms his heart. I found it interesting, his comments and his thoughts, and I hope you have too. And we would like to hear your thoughts and what warms your heart in your religious faith or in your spiritual life. Please call and share your thoughts with us. We would like you to be here with us. So the phone number is on the screen, television screen, and please give us a ring and we'll be connected to you and we'll add you here to the program. So please call. You have some other reflections at all, Mohammed?
In what aspect?
About what warms your heart?
We're going to go back to the same thing. That's the doing the right things, and then again, it is a personal perspective what the right things are.
And besides doing the right thing, what was the?
For some people, the right thing can be different for different people.
Yes.
And I get my cue for what is right and what is wrong from my religious belief, right? And a lot of things in the religious belief, right, but my personal interpretation of what Islam teaches me is that the tolerance. I mean, if you disagree with somebody, you don't force them to change. What you let them try to educate. That's the best you can do. Educate them, and if it's not, then let them be their own way.
So tolerance, that principle is important to you.
Well, in Islam, yes.
In Islam.
Absolutely. Actually, it teaches in Islam, in Quran, it says that there's no compulsion on religion. And a lot of time, when you hear in the news media, they talk about Islam, it's like they're going to go out and force religion on everyone. But that's not a true statement. Not only, at least from the religious point of view, but the teaching of Islam is.
Well, it's good to hear these thoughts of yours. So little is known in many parts of the West about Islam. We're ignorant because we don't know.
Right, yes. And a lot of people, is amazing, right? They don't even know what Islam is all about, right? Like sometimes when you tell them this is the teaching of Islam is about the same similar thing like the Judaism or Christianity, and they're surprised. Like we follow the same teaching like Prophet Ibrahim's teaching. And just to give you the back, probably you know, but for the audience, right, the Prophet Ibrahim had two sons, Isaac and Ishmael. And Muslim, they came out of the Ishmael. And Jewish and Christianity, they started from Isaac, descendant of Isaac.
There's something I wanted to add there. It escaped me. If you could help me a little bit with talk about the pilgrimage to Mecca. That I think that's something that warms the heart of some Islamic people when they can do that. Isn't that a life goal to go and?
It is the duty, it is obligated to every Muslim who can afford financially and physically to travel over there. And when you are over there, right, you have to do certain physical thing like going around the Kaaba. That's the big mosque. There's a square structure over there, and there are some other activities you're supposed to do while you're over there. And so that to do that, you have to be in good physical condition. And obviously, to travel that far, right, you have to have financial things. So if you meet both obligations, then you have to do that once in your lifetime. Now, the good thing about that, right, is to and if you read Malcolm X, I don't know if you have read his.
I haven't, no.
Book, but he went to Mecca for the Hajj one time, and his complete about Islam, his all thinking about Islam was completely changed once he went over there and saw that how people practice the religion.
How did he change from that trip?
Because when he went over there, he saw all Muslim in different colors.
Well,
I mean, black and white, and I don't know. At that time, right, that what was in U.S., what was going on in this country in U.S., but when he went over there, right, he saw black Muslim and the white Muslim and all those people praying together. And the other thing he observed was there's a dress code over there. You're not allowed, different people are not allowed to wear the different, everybody wears a similar white sheet around them. And you don't get a special treatment. First come, first served. So that's the, like, what is the equality? Everybody is just equal in the eyes of the God. When you're over there, so you stand shoulder to shoulder, everybody says.
Well, universality there that he saw. Right.
And everybody eating and drinking and everything is like you are at the same level.
Mohammed, it's been good to have you here. Our time is up, I understand, so thank you for being present and talking
pleasure.
about your faith and about Islam and educating us all. It's been good, and I've enjoyed it as always, and I hope our viewers have. You're welcome to write us a letter. You didn't call us, but if you want to write us a letter, care of Channel 15, Adelphia Cable, we will receive it and write you back. I'm your host, the Reverend Leland Udell, and our guest today was Mohammed Shaikh, and we look forward to being with you next Wednesday. So, again, thanks.